Have you ever noticed that some people have repeated patterns of behavior that are just so hard for them to shift? When they step back and they are not in the moment, they intellectually understand that it doesn't serve them to have this behavior. But then you put them back in the situation and they fall back into that pattern and they can't help themselves. Astrology is a great tool for understanding these patterns and also gives you the tools you need to figure out some pattern interrupts you can use to try to shift that behavior, but it does require some practice. I'm Panda Hershey, and I use astrology to coach entrepreneurs and their teams on how to work together and separately and take the right actions to move their businesses forward. Donald Trump has been coached by his advisors to stick to economic policies, whether it's at a rally, a press conference, or an interview. At the August 15th press conference at Bedminster, he was able to stick to the economic points for most of the press conference. But after the question started, he said the following: "I think I'm entitled to personal attacks." It's his pattern of campaigning based on personality. So let's use astrology to understand this and how his team can coach him to stick to the economic points. As a reminder, what you have here is a tools and talents table for Donald. It is based on his natal chart. It takes all of the items, his sun, his moon, everything in there. I've got 14 items, and it puts them in order from lowest to highest by degree. So in the range of 0 to 30 degrees. In a separate video, I've gone through how he experiences life, which is what this basically is. And why does he always end up going towards the personal attacks? The reason is that the way he starts everything is with connection, with this Libra energy. And where does it take him? So he starts with a relationship. It's how everything begins for him. And he goes through all of these, using these tools, having all of these things happen until finally Mars, putting his commitment toward, putting his heart into offering his gifts and having them received. This is that Leo energy applied to his Mars tool of putting his heart into something, but also defending himself. And that Leo energy is about making sure that whatever I bring to the table, that you like it. And so, not being the best, not being seen as the one bringing the most, is something that he will defend every time. And because every relationship ends up here, it is why campaigns are very difficult for him and why they always become a contest of personality, i.e., a competition between what one person brings to the table and what the other person brings to the table as individuals. And this is why he believes that he's entitled to his personal attacks. And then this ascendant is the very last thing. It's like he does his defense of himself, standing up for himself, and then he steps away. So my first piece of advice for the Trump team, if I were to coach them on how to help him, would be no questions, or 1 or 2 questions from people who will give him the softballs. And that's very hard to do, but it is possible. And then that can become the press conference that they promote. Same thing with rallies, and keeping him on track with the right questions, having interviews that don't lead him astray, and where they are always leading him toward, of course, you are the best, Donald, and promoting him as having the gifts to offer and having them receive, and showing that they appreciate him. while it probably isn't practical for Donald to entertain very few questions or after an interview, there are other places where he can interrupt his pattern. And it is through using these tools here, because what tends to happen is that he has this combination of growth through meeting someone else's energy, i.e., the question that comes in, and this Uranus in Gemini, thinking a little differently. And if there were some way for someone to coach him through, this would be tough, to reinterpret the questions for him, or do something that would enable him to get to a different track, to end up being proud of himself based on the economic points and not on personality. These are all tools where this can happen. And that would be the coaching I would give him. But there is that way to do it. So that is how astrology can help. There are all these options for him to consider, and we'll see what happens. So I hope that helps you understand Donald's pattern of using personality as a major part of his platform when he campaigns. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And if you are ready to use astrology to harness your tools and talents to live the fullest life that you envision for yourself, just check out the caption below. Offering your gifts to the world starts with embracing who you are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.